Hello everyone and welcome to this rib variation video. Let's get started. So in this lesson I'm going to show you a rib 2x2 with some simple variations that you can do for interest. When you're doing a rib 2x2 on a double bed knitting machine, there are two different ways to do it. This way we're actually selecting two needles and deselecting one needle, and you want your needle bed to be in the crossed position. So when you are starting and casting on, you're going to actually have it racked once to the left so that the needles cross, and this is just for the casting on. And then when you center it back to 5, you'll see that your two needles in work and two needles not in work on the main and the ribber actually are right on top of one another. So the selection may look like you're selecting two needles and deselecting one needle, but once you do this racking combination, you'll see it is actually a 2x2. So when you're beginning, have your main and ribber in the center at 5 in the H position, select two needles to 1, and then rack it once to the left, number 4, just for casting on. Once again, so your ribber will be in the cross position. Here you can see I'm doing a cast on method with scrap yarn before the rib, which gives it a really nice clean edge. So what you want to look for is your yarn to be interlacing on the machine like so. It almost looks like a little lifeline or a zigzag. This is exactly how you want your yarn to be interlacing on your main and ribber bed at this point. Take it one passage over and then insert your comb. Another good thing to remember here when setting up your needles on the machine is that you want your ribber carriage needles to be on the inside and the main bed to be one needle larger on the outside. When you rack for this specific example, you'll need to add one extra needle on the left of your ribber in order to accommodate the cast on and the fact that your ribber is in the cross position. So once you do one row and insert your comb, take your carriage back across all needles and then 3 passages the ribber bed only. Then you can deselect and do one more passage back across all needles in work. Once you do this, take your ribber carriage and just take it across back and forth to drop the loops. Now again, this is a casting on method using scrap yarn. It gives a really beautiful clean edge for your lovely rib swatch. Now I'm going and joining the good yarn, and you're still going to keep your machine in the cross position at this point. There's a couple steps to casting on before we rack the rib 2x2 appropriately. For the first passage, have your tension nice and tight. You can see if we zoom in here, once again, we're still in the cross position. And so you see that lovely zigzag happening with the yarn. Then you're going to knit one passage top, one passage bottom, and one passage top bed. This is tubular selection. I usually increase a little bit here, but still want it to be quite tight. Again, this is the first few rows of your good working yarn, and so a nice tight tension is best. At this point, you'll want to put your tension set to the rib 2x2 tension. Next, you're going to rack your racking of your ribber bed to 5 to the center position. So grab your racking grip handle and move it one over so that you're now in the center position. This is setting you up for the rib 2x2, two needles in work, two needles out of work directly on top of one another. Don't forget there's one needle on the left side that you'll need to transfer and ensure that it's even on the ribber and the main bed. Do as many passages as you want. You'll see a happy rib looks like little M formations, and that's exactly what we're looking for. The first design selection, you're going to transfer one needle on the ribber carriage up to the main needle bed. We're actually wanting every needle to be in work on the main bed, so push all the needles into the B position on the main bed, and then transfer every other needle from the ribber to the main bed. Now, if you have empty spaces on the main bed, you're going to actually split your loop using the purl part of the stitch and transfer it down. So starting on one end, you'll see that if I get to an empty space, I'm taking the purl stitch from the main bed and bringing it down. Again, I'm working one needle in work, one needle out of work on the ribber, and then all needles will be in work on the main bed. Go ahead and make this selection for the entirety of your sample. When you're done, it should look something like this. And now the last step is to change the tension. So if you consider the main bed being a stockinette or a jersey tension, and the bottom still being a 1x1 selection, you can actually have a looser tension on your main bed, and you can maintain a bit of a tighter tension on your ribber. Go ahead and do as many stitches as you like. This can also just be done for the entirety of your sample. It makes a beautiful design. The next design example I will show you will be another transfer. So from this point, if you want to actually increase and change your design pattern even further, you can change the ribber selection to 1 in work and 3 out of work. And once again, the main bed, all needles in work. So now we're going to move every other needle on the ribber up, and you'll see 1 in work and 3 out of work, just furthering the design here. The tension for this can generally remain the same. If you want, once again, you could tighten your ribber a little bit because now you've got even less needles in work. And go ahead and knit as many rows as you like. This gives a bit of a staggering effect, and you'll see it on the swatch after, being from all needles being in rib to less and less, and it gives a beautiful design pattern. Here's how it looks from an aerial point of view. The last one, you're actually going to change the ribber once again, taking 1 needle in work by 6 out of work. So we're just further opening up that final stitch and transferring it to the main bed. Make your transfer all the way across, and then continue to knit as many passages as you like. Lastly, if you know that you're going to work this to a final jersey or stockinette, you'll be transferring your final needles on the ribber to the main bed. And this would require you to actually change your sinker plate and just knit on the main needle bed once you complete the transfer. Another fun thing to do with this is use the plating tool if you have it, and you'll see a beautiful two-toned effect using the plating tool with this rib selection variation. So I am just finishing transferring everything, and then you'll start to see the design once the ribber comes down. And there you have it, looking beautiful. Now this is actually technically the wrong side, but you can absolutely use it as the right side. It gives a really nice pattern. So change your sinker plate here and insert your good yarn. Now consider your stockinette stitch to be a little bit looser. A happy jersey stockinette stitch on a standard machine is usually around 4, depends on the yarn of course. This is a standard weight yarn on a standard gauge machine, and so tension 4 to 5 is usually quite good. Go ahead and knit as many rows as you want. Now for this cast off, I'm going to do a crochet cast off. So 1 row, you want to double your tension to give yourself enough room to do the crochet cast off. Then you can break the yarn, at least double the width of your swatch to give you a little bit of space, and go ahead and grab an extra needle or the latch tool. Now you want to do this in the direction towards the raw end of the yarn. So I am moving from the right to the left. Take the loop and put it on your latch tool. Then you want to take it behind the latch, placing the next loop in between the hook and the latch, and doing a crochet method as you loop through. You can see closely exactly what's being done here. If you have any questions about this, remember that carolynferreira.com does offer online courses, and we go through multiple ways of casting on as well as casting off and multiple stitch techniques. This is a crochet cast on, loop through loop, or crochet cast off technique. In the final one, you can actually pull and close the work entirely. Once again, working towards that raw edge. Now we can have a look at the swatch and see it beautifully on the table. So you'll see I'm removing it from the comb and the scrap yarn is on the piece. How to remove the scrap yarn? So one end has all the raw edges, the other end is looped. You want to break the first loop that's closest to the good work, and then take the scrap yarn, in this case it's the brown, and find the edge that is closest to the good work. You should be able to pull that and it will separate your scrap yarn from your good working yarn. This yarn seemed to break a few times on me, but no worries. It doesn't mean it's attached, you just have to unravel and pull. And there we go, we can see it now, the final product. You can have a look at the 2x2 and the staggering selection as we go to a full jersey stockinette stitch. And finally, in order to clean finish your sample, take a needle and with your raw yarn edge, you can work it into the bottom of the cast on of your rib, at least an inch in between before you cut will clean finish that edge beautifully. For the sides, you can actually follow the last row and mimic the shape of the knit stitch. So I'm just rotating my needle downwards and through and following the knit stitch. This will generally hide within the seam, the side seam of your garment. I hope you enjoyed this demo of beautiful rib variations. Remember to follow CF Studios on YouTube or check out carolynferreira.com for how you can work with us online. I'll see you next time.